About 20,000 years ago, your city probably didn't exist. Neither did most of the countries on Earth. The world looked completely different. Huge walls of ice covered enormous parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. Some glaciers stretched for thousands of miles. In places, the ice was more than 2 miles thick. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are today. Entire coastlines were missing. Land bridges connected continents that are now separated by oceans. And the temperature? In many regions, winter wasn't something that lasted a few months. It was a way of life for thousands of years. This period is known as the Last Glacial Maximum, the coldest phase of the last ice age. And somehow, humans survived it, which is strange when you think about it, because humans don't look like ice age animals. Mammoths had thick fur, woolly rhinoceroses had thick fur, musk oxen had thick fur. Polar bears evolved for freezing temperatures. Humans evolved in Africa. We have exposed skin, weak claws, small teeth, and almost no natural protection against extreme cold. If you were designing an ice age survival from scratch, you probably wouldn't build a human. So why didn't we disappear? Why are mammoths extinct while we are still here? The answer begins with something that changed our species forever: fire. And before we continue, if you enjoy videos about human history, evolution, and the strange story of our species, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because some of the most incredible survival stories in history happened long before civilization ever existed.
Most animals survive by changing their bodies. Humans survive by changing their environment. That's a very important difference. A mammoth couldn't invent a coat. A human could. A wolf couldn't build a shelter. A human could. A bear couldn't carry fire across a frozen landscape. A human could. Long before the Ice Age reached its coldest point, humans had already learned one of the most powerful skills ever discovered. They learned how to control fire. Archaeological evidence suggests humans were using fire hundreds of thousands of years before the peak of the Ice Age. That changed everything. Fire provided warmth. Fire provided protection. Fire allowed cooking. Fire turned freezing nights into survivable nights. But fire alone wasn't enough. Humans began creating tools specifically designed for cold environments. Needles made from bone, clothing made from animal hides, shelters built from wood, stone, and even mammoth bones. Some Ice Age homes discovered in Eastern Europe were constructed using the bones of dozens of mammoths. Imagine that. A house built from the skeletons of giant prehistoric animals. Humans weren't adapting physically to the Ice Age. They were adapting intellectually. And that may have been the greatest advantage any species had ever developed. Because while evolution takes thousands of generations, ideas can spread in a single lifetime.
When most people imagine the Ice Age, they imagine endless snow. But much of the Ice Age was actually a cold grassland ecosystem filled with enormous animals. Mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant bison, reindeer, wild horses. Some of these creatures weighed several tons. To a small group of humans, they must have looked almost unbelievable. And yet humans hunted them, not with metal weapons, not with guns, but with sharpened stone points attached to wooden spears. For a long time, scientists debated whether humans were capable of hunting such massive animals. Today, the evidence is overwhelming. They were, and the rewards were enormous. A single mammoth could provide thousands of pounds of meat, enough calories to feed an entire group for weeks. But the meat wasn't the most valuable part. The fat was. Fat is incredibly important in cold environments. It contains more than twice the calories of protein, and during long winters, those calories meant survival. Nothing was wasted. The meat was eaten. The fat was stored. The hides became clothing. The bones became tools. The tusks became weapons and building materials. A mammoth wasn't just food. It was an entire survival package. And yet, even with all these resources, humans were still facing a threat far greater than the cold itself.
Most people assume the Ice Age was deadly because of freezing temperatures, but temperature wasn't the biggest killer. Hunger was. Cold doesn't usually kill healthy humans immediately. Starvation does. Ice Age winters could last for months. Animals migrated, plants disappeared, food became unpredictable. A hunting trip could determine whether a group survived or died. And unlike modern humans, there were no backups. No grocery stores, no refrigerators, no emergency supplies. If food ran out, there was nothing waiting around the corner. This is why Ice Age humans lived in groups. Alone humans stood almost no chance. Groups shared food, shared knowledge, shared responsibility. If one hunter failed, another might succeed. If one person got injured, others could help. Your ancestors survived because they cooperated. And cooperation may have been humanity's greatest weapon. Not strength, not speed, not size. Cooperation. In fact, some scientists argue that our ability to work together on a large scale is what separated us from every other human species. Because modern humans weren't alone during the Ice Age. They had competition.
20,000 years ago, the world had already seen multiple human species. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and several others that have since vanished. Today, only one remains. Us. For years, scientists assumed Neanderthals were primitive. That idea has largely disappeared. They made tools, they used fire, they hunted large animals. They survived cold climates for hundreds of thousands of years. In many ways, they were remarkably successful. And yet, they disappeared. Modern humans didn't. Why? Nobody knows for certain. Some researchers believe modern humans developed larger social networks. Others think our ability to share information improved survival. Some point to technology. Others point to culture. The truth is probably a combination of many factors. But whatever happened, one thing is clear. The Ice Age was not a test that every human species passed. Many failed. Only one lineage survived long enough to reach the modern world. And every person alive today is part of that lineage. Which brings us to the strangest part of the story. The fact that you're here at all.
The Ice Age lasted far longer than all of recorded history. Entire species disappeared during that time. Woolly mammoths vanished. Woolly rhinoceroses vanished. Giant deer vanished. Saber-toothed predators vanished. The world changed over and over again. Yet somehow, your ancestors made it through. Think about what that means. For thousands of generations, every single one of your ancestors survived long enough to have children. Every winter, every famine, every migration, every dangerous hunt, every freezing night. If just one of them had failed, even once, you would not be here. The odds are almost impossible, and yet it happened. Again and again, for tens of thousands of years. The Ice Age was one of the harshest environments humans ever faced, but it revealed something unique about our species. We weren't the strongest animals. We weren't the fastest. We weren't the toughest. What made humans different was something far stranger. When the world changed, we changed faster. When the cold arrived, we built fires. When food became scarce, we invented new tools. When survival became harder, we worked together. The Ice Age lasted longer than the pyramids, longer than Rome, longer than every civilization combined. And when it finally ended, the mammoths were gone. But humans remained. Not because nature made us perfectly suited for the Ice Age, but because we became the first species capable of reshaping the world around us faster than the world could reshape us. And that ability may be the reason you're watching this video today.